KCAA.
Here we are. A lot of things happening. People are getting older. Matter of fact, I have a younger sister that I've teased her family about being my older sister, and actually have a niece that pretends to believe that every now and then. But my sister, Cheryl Gale, happy birthday, baby. I'm not gonna, I don't even remember how young you are because every time I see you, you look younger, you look great, you look better than most of the people on the planet. So congratulations, happy birthday. Looking forward to letting you take me out for your birthday. We'll look forward to that. This is Empire Talks Back. We're brought to you by the Improve Association, where we promote business and community partnerships, and brought to you by West Side Story News, WSSnews.com. We're here to prompt you to ask the question, seek the truth, think critically, improve, increase the quality of our lives while respecting each other and the planet we share. You can get all of the Empire Talks Back podcasts. They're available on iHeart and all other platforms that carry podcasts. But I prefer iHeart or KCAA Radio for picking up those podcasts. Now, you are here to save the world, here to clean up after yourself, leave things better than when you found them, and be your brother's keeper. Or should you be? I think you should. Not just because I'm your brother, but because we all do better if we allow ourselves to get to be the best that we can, and if we allow ourselves to invest in each other. I say, is investing in the human potential, is that a great social development tool? Is it a productive investment? Or as some of us think, is it simply a moral commitment? I think it's a moral commitment to take care of those around you, because you're going to take care of them. You're either going to be helping them or neglecting them. You're going to be helping or hurting. I say we should be helping. Thought for the day, a couple of thoughts. We've just celebrated Juneteenth, the Emancipation Proclamation. Show you how the thought process is probably much stronger than simply the reality of things. We're celebrating Juneteenth because we have a mindset that says President Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Actually, he disrupted the stability of the South because he didn't free all of the slaves or enslaved people. He freed the slaves that were owned by people who had rebelled against the United States. Some say he had no authority. But however, he freed all of the slaves, the enslaved people from the South, those people who had revolted. However, those slave owners in the loyal North were not affected. But we celebrate Juneteenth, Freedom Day, as we should. Every day is a freedom day. It's a state of mind. Oh yeah, I know it's a lot more than just a state of mind if you got somebody standing over you with a whip, with a gun, with the authority from the government to do you as they want. And basically that's still the same as we look at the law, not necessarily based on color, but based on authority, based on power, based on who's in charge. I bring to you folks the idea, the opinion that you are in charge. We have the ability to vote. We have the ability to change our lives here in America. We have the ability to educate ourselves and educate our children. There was a time when it was against the law to educate African Americans here in the United States. There are those who would like to make it against the law to educate your children now, today, as to the facts of our history, and hopefully to guide us to a factual, easy to relate to future. So, serious, I'll tell you what's serious. Serious is when people think that you are playing around because it looks so easy. They think you're playing around because that's not the way they thought it should go. I want to use something very, very serious to point out that we live in a situation where we have night and day, left and right, up and down. We have to appreciate the opposites. We have to absorb those things that we think are conflictuous. When I was in high school, and there are people around me who were in high school, one of the greatest athletic endeavors that I witnessed or participated in, I played football, we did a little basketball, ran a little track. But I watched through the window the high school wrestling team. Watched through the window? Well, yeah, because I wasn't about to sacrifice and invest as much as it took for a high school wrestler. I had friends who were wrestlers. The big thing I remember about them was, Joe Daniels, Jesse Edwards. These guys were state champions in the lower weights. And I would notice them walking past the water fountain. You guys don't drink water? Yeah, but you got to keep our weight. Hey, there's a party. You guys want? No, man, I got to run. Got to get ready for this wrestling. I'm playing football, basketball. After every game, we're celebrating, having a good time. Hey, you guys? No, we got to go work out. We got to keep our weight. Now, that was high school wrestling. And our coach was, Big Ten champion wrestler. Tough stuff. I also had an aunt who was a wrestling fan, not a high school wrestling fan, but she was a TV wrestling fan. One of those, Gorgeous George, these, we said, yeah, that stuff's not real. The best way to get kicked out of my aunt's house was to say that wrestling on TV was not real. She knew, we had our little arguments, but as I grew into watching and paying attention, I realized that professional TV wrestlers not only had to have the skills of the high school and college wrestlers, they had to be gymnasts, they had to be acrobats, and they had to be comedians and frontmen and singers, and they had to entertain. Big deal. It is a big deal, especially if you are wanting to get involved. We have our correspondent here today, Mr. Jordan Culberson. Jordan is just about to graduate or has graduated, I'm not sure, with a communications degree at Cal State San Bernardino. Is that right?
No, I'm supposed to be graduating in October. I'm a communication master, like you said, at Grand Canyon University online.
Okay.
And then after that, I'll be possibly attending St. Bonaventure University for sports journalism.
Man, all of that's really good, but you really want to be a wrestler.
Yes, sir, I do.
I think that's amazing. Obviously, when the newspaper and communication business, I'm reaching out to young folks who want to be involved in journalism. And so I met Jordan, and as we were discussing, his assignments and what he wants to do, he let it leak out that he's involved in searching and going to be a professional wrestler. I thought that was exciting. So I've asked him to step out and find us what's going on with the wrestling program here in the Inland Empire. And I find out, he already knew, that there was the Empire Wrestling Federation.
Yes,
that has been around for years and putting on shows for years. And today, we not only have Jordan in the studio, but we have Michael Badwolf, the Latino Frankenstein, the heavyweight. Is it heavyweight?
The EWF American Heavyweight Champion of the World.
Look out now. Right here, KCAA Radio. I'm going to stay in my lane today. You can believe that stuff. I'm not going to be. Michael, how are you this morning?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
God bless you for showing up and being here. He's got. You guys should go to the video. You should go to www.kcaaradio.com so that you can see the live stream of today's program. The Latino Frankenstein has his championship belt.
Looking good.
You're looking good. You got to be strong to carry that thing, too.
Championship title, not a belt. Belts hold up your pants. Champions win titles.
Yeah, tell me.
Championship title. That's right. Tune into the YouTube show. You want to see me in all my glory. You want to see this championship title here, and you want to see me because the beard is clean and the face is mean.
The beard is clean and the face is mean. So where's this YouTube? Where you were just saying your championship's available? People can see you wrestle?
You can check us out. I'm from the Empire Wrestling Federation right here in the Inland Empire. We're based out of San Bernardino, so you can check us out on YouTube at Hard Knocks Wrestling.
HardKnocksWrestling.com?
No, just YouTube search Hard Knocks Wrestling. We'll be the first ones to pop up and search up Empire Wrestling Federation.
Very good. And how long have you been involved in wrestling with the Federation, Michael?
I've been involved with them since 2018. I started out there at the School of Hard Knocks. Started in San Bernardino. We do have a school run by Jesse Hernandez. He's my trainer. Professional's been running this business over 25 years.
Okay.
A great trainer. So anyone out there, if you're interested in becoming a professional wrestler, you can head over to the School of Hard Knocks right here in San Bernardino, not too far away from here.
School of Hard Knocks, that sounds like a easy program.
Oh,
yeah.
It sounds real simple. They put it in the title School of Hard Knocks because that's exactly what's going to happen to you. You're going to get hit hard. You're going to get knocked down. But the important thing is you keep coming back for more.
And Jordan, tell me, is he faking about that part, or is it easier? As a student, it's one thing for the champion to say that, but as a student, what do you feel?
What I feel is this. I mean, he wouldn't be standing here champion if he didn't get knocked out himself. So, I mean...
Whoa.
I mean,
we don't have a ring in here, but it sounds like the student is kind of being a little, I want to be champion too.
The gauntlet's being thrown, and the way I see it, people can say whatever they want, but it turns out things are a lot different once I'm staring across from them from that ring. They don't talk as much like this anymore.
Giving them that Frankenstein pose.
That's right. All I gotta do is stroke the beard.
A couple times.
Stroke the beard a couple times. Strikes fear in these people. Everyone see it. The women love it. The men want to be me. No one's got a beard like me, man.
I love it.
Amen.
When's the next time Michael will be. Next time you will be performing.
Actually, it's going to be this Wednesday.
This Wednesday?
This Wednesday at the Riverside Christian Assembly out in Riverside. So it's actually a free event. It starts at 6 p.m. All you need is an email address to get in. You come check it out. I'll be there defending my championship.
Really? Okay, so how do they sign up or do their email so they can get their free seat?
Oh yeah, you get your free. Oh, just show up. Once you show up, there's gonna be someone there at the door. They're gonna just take down your email. You can walk right in.
Okay, so once again, what's the address or where is this?
Oh yeah, it's at the Riverside Christian Assembly. Let me get that address for you. That is at 4075 Twinning Street, Harupa Valley, California.
Very good. So what was your experience in wrestling or in athletics prior to getting involved in professional wrestling?
You know, I didn't have any experience. I didn't really wrestle in high school. I was just kind of grew up real poor on the bad side of town, kind of grew up hard, grew up tough, had to struggle a lot to survive. And I had to think, what can I do where I can really struggle, put my foot down and really make my mark in this world about who I am. And, you know, I'm very entertaining. I like to think I'm entertaining. I like music. I like to be athletic. It's like I had to find a way to roll all these things into one.
Okay.
And I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling, and all roads led here. So no matter what I did in my life, it always, if I was making music, I could make this as a wrestler's entrance theme. If I was working out, it's like, I can get pretty strong looking like a wrestler. So if I cut my beard up real nice, people are going to like it. And all roads led here.
That's
so
amazing.
As soon as I stepped into that ring, it was just, I was home. I finally found it.
Who was your hero or shero or the person that hooked you on that path beyond your basic enthusiasm?
Growing up, I was a huge fan of Bret the Hitman Hart.
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yes, he wasn't one of the biggest guys around, but he was just one of the greatest technical wrestlers ever.
Now you say technical. Let's talk about the technicals and techniques of wrestling now. We see people standing up on the ropes, flying through the air like trapeze artists, landing on each other, throwing each other around. It's got to be one of the best choreographed activities on the planet. No, a lot of people say, well, it's not real. I said, can you do it? Can you fly? Can you? And you're not. When you get hit, you're getting hit.
Absolutely.
When you fall, you're falling. And when somebody falls on top of you, they're falling on top of you. And when they're swinging at you, they don't always coordinate it the way you thought it was. And sometimes they'll knock the kakuki out of you. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And sometimes when he accidentally, or maybe wasn't an accident, does something out of script, you're going to end up doing the same thing. So sometimes
injuries are very real, and to the people, the naysayers that tell what you do is fake, you tell me a way that you can fake gravity. Find a way that you can fake gravity, because when that guy is on that top rope and he's doing a somersault at me, how the heck am I supposed to fake that? He's gonna hit me, I'm gonna land, and it's gonna hurt. So I don't know. I just can't believe when people say that to me. I just don't like it. Like, you can't fake gravity.
No, you can't. Well, the thing is, you do it so well. They do it so well that people expect that it's totally, absolutely real, and it's like watching TV. Well, he got hit upside the head with a chair 6 times, and he's still, well, are the chairs, I don't know, ask magicians how they do what they do, and I can ask you some questions you may not want to answer. But when they hit each other with these chairs, are they real chairs?
Absolutely. I got a chair in my car right now.
Oh,
actually,
no, you don't have to go
When I come out
get
to the ring, I actually come out with a chair. My chair's name is Cherry. I love it very much. I come out with it. I stroke that chair like a guitar, and yes, I've hit people several times with it. And, if I swing, I just swing for the fences. And whether they put their hands up or not, that's on them. But I can assure you it's a very real chair, and I'm swinging it very hard.
Wednesday at 6 o'clock?
6 p.m., absolutely.
And it's in a church?
Riverside Christian Assembly. It's going to be outside in the parking
but it's
lot,
at the Christian Assembly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, at the Christian Assembly.
So you are striking with the approval of the church.
Guys like me, I don't know if you ever seen, I really don't search for the approval of these guys. The referees and stuff, they kind of like to boss me around and tell me what to do. I really don't care what they think.
I had plans for Wednesday at 6 o'clock. My wife is returning from Atlanta. But I think we're going to fool around and come to the wrestling match.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
check this out.
Come by and check us out. See,
that's amazing.
See the champion do what he does best.
That's amazing. Michael Badwolf. That's your given name.
That's my name.
And the Latino Frankenstein.
Yeah, so it's my nickname. So, the Latino Frankenstein, a lot of people think, the way I move, Frankenstein's monster. But I like to think of it a little more beyond that, because Frankenstein's monster was the big guy doing that. But Frankenstein was the scientist, and he was a very smart and calculating man.
Dr. Frankenstein.
Dr. Frankenstein is right.
Not the product of Dr. Frankenstein.
The doctor. So when they call me the Latino Frankenstein, just remember all that smarts comes with it too.
My man, I appreciate that. Jason, what do you got to say real quick? We're gonna have to. We're about out of time. We had a great. Jason, are you looking forward to be champion? Are there weight classes, or is this it? The championship belt. Is there another champion at another weight level?
I am the current EWF American Heavyweight Champion. We also have our Great Goliath EWF Championship, and that's held by my good friend Richie Slade.
And the difference between the two is how many pounds?
I'd say the difference between me and him is about 50 pounds right now.
Okay.
He's on a whole nother level. This man has been here a lot longer than I have. He's a veteran. He's just everything I'd like to be as a wrestler. He's already accomplished it. So he's the top dog, and I'm happy being right there next to him right now.
I appreciate all of that. Next time we talk, I'd like to get an idea of how you grow, where do you go from here, and what we as the general public can do to support the Empire Wrestling Federation and the great athletes that are involved in it.
A great way is like you said, you're going to come to our event this Wednesday. You're going to see us there. And the thing I want you to do is I want you to take pictures. I want you to take pictures. I want you to post pictures. And I want you to tell people how much fun you had. How much fun you had seeing the American champion, Michael Battle, just beat the snot out of whoever's across the ring from him. And I want you to take pictures of it. Yeah, I'm not going to lose. The champion's not going to lose. I didn't come here if I was losing, all right? I'm not losing.
Eric, you want to be a wrestler? Okay, do we have anybody at the station that wants to be a wrestler? Oh, man, we're going to have to.
You got me sitting right here, but I already told him, I said, look, I ain't never going to fight my friend. I'm never going to fight my brother over here next to me. I'm going to fight right next to him because I think somebody's got some championships that I won, some tag team titles.
That's right. We also got the tag team titles are currently held by Los Mexi Machos, and I can't stand these guys. So I've beaten both of them in singles competition. I'm pretty much tag team championship by myself.
Okay.
Let's not.
Eric, we got to get with these guys and see if we can't put on a wrestling match right out here in the KCAA parking lot. I think that would be a heck of a thing. Fred, if you're listening, we got a deal. We got to work on this one. This is perfect. Listen, I appreciate you guys coming in. I look forward to the next time, and it shouldn't be long. Thank you very much. Final word? Jordan, final word.
Michael, go get him. Represent that championship well.
He actually reached across and touched the heavyweight belt. And Michael didn't break his arm. But I could see that he better not do it again.
I'm trying to behave right now,
yeah,
guys.
Very good, very good. I appreciate your self-control. Thank you, my brother, for being here. Let's have that break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to a couple of attorneys about our Supreme Court justices and their ethics and their conduct. And, you know, the fact that these are the people that I believe that since they started becoming a lawyer and thinking about becoming a lawyer, they had to have big-time respect for the Supreme Court, the same thing that Michael had to have for the heavyweight champions of the real wrestling world. We'll be right back. Introduce you to Allison Gracie and Hugo Salazar. We'll be right back.
We've got the groove. Oh, there's been so many.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
There's been so many things that held us down, but now it seems like things are finally coming around. I know we got a long way to go.
All right, we've just completed a segment on wrestling, and that's a fair wrestling situation where we've got the wrestlers in the ring where we can see them. where everything is transparent. But we have other level of wrestling with our Supreme Court and our Supreme Court justices, where they wrestle in the back room and come up with their solutions and their statements, and they deliver their decisions, and we're kind of stuck with them. And sometimes we're stuck, sometimes we're enthused. But lately we've been hearing about scandalous things. I guess as a judge, you know, you should not be hanging around and partying with the people who are going to be coming before you with a case. That would indicate that, you know, you guys are a little friendly, maybe got some things going on together. Should that judge be subject to receiving all kinds of free gifts and all types of influenceable things that if I were to receive, they'd be calling me for conflict of interest? Anyway, you know how I am. I got a lot of attitude that may or may not have itself placed in the proper angles of legalism, especially talking about the law. So I've called a couple of attorneys. I've reached out for a couple of people that I have big respect for. One of them is attorney Allison Bracey. She's the managing partner at Bracey Hawkins Law here in San Bernardino. You've heard her on the radio with me in the past. And we have attorney Hugo Ivan Salazar. Okay, and Hugo will be calling back, but we're a little bit heavy with people who know what that they're talking about. Miss Allison, how are you this morning? Oh, we got her. Look at her. She's all Skyped up there. Allison, how you doing?
I'm doing. How are you?
God is great. I'm extremely grateful. It's wonderful to see you. Wonderful to see you. I've been hearing about our Supreme Court justices. I was able to secure your attendance today, and we have some questions.
Yes.
And I think that one of the first questions I'd like to ask about the Supreme Court justices is they have a lifetime appointment. Mm-hmm. Now, when I was a youngster looking in school, being educated about the glories of our Constitution, the glories of our separation of powers, the Supreme Court was like one of the left or right hands of God. You know, we not only did they have power, they have this ethic, they have this, right. They have these standards, they have, and they're given a lifetime opportunity so that they don't have to be subject to any outside influences. Their money's good, they're taken care of, and so that's the way I always felt about them. And so to hear some of the things that I've heard recently, it's kind of disturbing. So I'm wondering about how do you feel about the lifetime appointment? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What do you think about that?
Well, what people don't realize is that actually most judges have a de facto lifetime appointment. Even if you're talking about here in San Bernardino, I mean, we have judges that they are up for reelection every, whatever term limits that we have on the books, but they're almost never challenged. It's almost always just one person on the ballot. There's almost never any other people challenging their position. And so judges get reelected time after time after time with essentially no, with no opposition. That's in the Superior Court level. Now, at the federal level, just like the Supreme Court, there really aren't any term limits. I mean, the only thing that the Constitution says in federal court and with the Supreme Court is that the appointment is subject to good behavior. And so that's been interpreted to mean, it doesn't technically say lifetime appointment, but that's been interpreted to mean a lifetime appointment unless they do something that involves some sort of moral turpitude or some reason that falls within the context of not acting within good behavior. And so it's really something that it exists throughout the judiciary. I think it would be very hard to change it. I mean, there's been proposals for amendments to the Constitution to add term limits, but essentially it's something that is present and prevalent throughout the judiciary system, whether it's trial level, state level, or federal or Supreme Court level.
Have we a history that demonstrates or tells us that we've gotten rid of judges in the past because of their conduct? Or can we demonstrate that judges, there have been justices who have stayed on the court well past their points of efficiency?
Yeah.
Can-
I think more of the latter. I think it's more of the latter, and so I think the argument for term limits is that you have judges that are aging, judges that their mental state is compromised or their medical state is compromised, their attention to detail, their loss of stamina, those types of things come into play with decision making, and really with term limit, I mean without having term limits, judges are more or less thinking about how to strategically retire. And so that was the whole thing, if you recall, about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because she had been ill for many years, and the Obama administration really wanted her to retire during his administration. It didn't happen, and then when she passed away, it became necessary during the Trump administration to replace her.
you,
And
uh,
so
you're,
as
po-
the
you're pointing out something that suggests part of why I was kind of in admiration of the system, because it seemed that prior to Obama's administration, the presidents were quite satisfied to take the opportunity to appoint when the opportunity arose, and the Congress was apparently satisfied to endorse or accept the basic appointments. Or am I missing a history of dissent that just wasn't as obvious because it wasn't the internet and there weren't as many newspapers and TV stations?
Yeah, well, there's always the political aspect of it, especially because the court is so divided now. The nation is so divided now. I think when you go back to the times of the founding fathers in terms of the Constitution, the life expectancy was only 50 years then. The justices were not serving 30-year, terms. They
Okay.
were serving, 6 or 8 year terms because they were appointed older and the life expectancy was shorter. And so I read a statistic today that the average term before 1970 was only 14 years. Now the average term is like 28 or 30 years. Justice Thomas has been on the bench for 30 years. And so I think it becomes necessary to strategically place people and align people. And that's the whole point of I thought initially the point of the Supreme Court was that they were independent, they were separate from the political process, separate from, in terms of the checks and balances, they were independent. And so with these long, drawn out terms, it they become a little bit more politicized, and I think that's really the motivation for asking and championing for term limits, because people reach that level of independence.
Talk about false impressions. I was silly enough to think that Supreme Court justices were so pristine that they didn't even go to parties or hang out with politicians. Or if they did, it was looking down their nose at this this group of people who traded their services for money.
Right.
So, in terms of standards, should the Supreme Court justices be obligated to have an exhibit the highest of standards in and out of the courtroom? Should they not be more strict on themselves than lower court judges, because they are the last word. They are the last appeal that you can make. So I would expect for them to be the strong But it seems otherwise. And going back to what you said was as long as they have good conduct, is that the way you phrased it?
Good behavior is what the Constitution says. Good behavior.
What's your thoughts, and what is the bar associations, and how do you guys feel about the ethics standards that are not written? Should they be written? Everything else in the law is written. This is how we lean back on it and find it. We may reinterpret it, but it was written. Is there anything written about the ethics, the standards that Supreme Court judges or even lower court judges should demonstrate?
Well, the federal court does have a code of ethics, but it's been interpreted to not apply to the Supreme Court. And so the Supreme Court has kind of accepted, at least at the minimum, the disclosure part. And so that's where all the discussion is currently about Justice Thomas and now Justice Alito. They didn't disclose certain things. But the only reason they even have to disclose is because the court voluntarily agreed to these gift disclosure requirements. But the court did not adopt any of the other ethical standards that are in place for federal court judges. And so that's kind of been the push now. And I think recently there's been discussion even from the Supreme Court that, they're entertaining or they're looking at, like an ethical code of conduct or ethical standards. But it's just funny because really, like you said at the beginning, when even being as a student, as a college student, as a law student, as a practicing attorney, the Supreme Court is the upper echelon. It's it's the standard. It's it's held in high regard by lawyers. And so when you talk about ethical duties, they should definitely exhibit the highest ethical standards of, any lawyer or any practice in the country. And like California, we have very strict and stringent professional responsibility rules for lawyers. And at the very minimum, we're talking about conflicts of interest. When you look at some of the things that are happening now, like recently with Justice Alito, not only is he receiving, I don't know, he said it wasn't a gift. Like, I think the issue was he was given like travel arrangements and other things like that. But
if you get something and you don't pay for it,
exactly,
it's a gift. The first time that you as an attorney or you as a person wanting to be an attorney and schooling yourself to be so, what was your first thing that occurred that made you kind of look sideways at the conduct of the Supreme Court justices? Was it this Clarence Thomas thing, or was it something that occurred prior to that? Made you realize that, these are real people. These are not,
yeah,
they don't walk on water.
They're just normal people. And, that's okay, but it takes so much to get to that level. You have to be the top of your class in law school, the top of your class. It's like you have to be the top of everything to even get to that level. I went to law school in DC, and so people were always clamoring for Supreme Court internships and externships and working at the Supreme Court. And in order to even get that opportunity, you had to be the best of the best of the best. And so most of the Supreme Court justices have had some prior experience, either clerking or externing or interning with the Supreme Court. And so, the idea that that the standards are not as elevated now is just it's scary, because like you said, they're the last word. They're the last word on the law and the way that the law is interpreted in our country. Look at Roe v. Wade, look at the Dobbs opinion, a lot of recent things. I know they have the affirmative action cases before them now. There's very critical issues that they're the last word on. And so just to think that there's conflicts going on, that's very scary.
We're gonna take a short break. We're going to allow you to feed your dog. But more importantly, and more critically, when we come back, I would like to ask you your first response to hearing about the beautiful gifts that our friend Clarence Thomas was able to secure, and wonder why the rest of the court was so casual in their response to that information being passed out. We're talking to attorney Allison Bracey of the Bracey Hawkins Law Group in San Bernardino. We're discussing the high standards, or lack thereof, of our Supreme Court justices, and we'll be right back after this short break to review the attitudes we all had upon hearing about the wonderful treatment that Mr. Judge Justice Clarence Thomas is receiving from the Crow. We'll be right back.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
We are back. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. That is Anthony Garcia, the Mood Master, to my right on his bass guitar. AG and the Mood Masters will be playing on Friday, July 7th at the Arrowhead Country Club here in San Bernardino. And the Arrowhead Country Club is the site of the IE Jazz Experience, scheduled for the Labor Day weekend, September 2nd and September 3rd. The IE Jazz Experience. Going to be a great show, and if you want to hear more about it, go to iejazzfestival.com. The website is up, and it will be made current as we move forward. Once again, save the date, September 2nd and 3rd, the IE Jazz Experience at Arrowhead Country Club. We're speaking with attorney Allison Bracey about our Supreme Court, the Supreme Court justices. And my question to you, Miss Alice, is this. Allison, when we first heard about the expensive treatment and gifts that Justice Clarence Thomas was receiving from a billionaire whose last name is Crow, what were your thoughts? You know, just that he was receiving those gifts, and at what point were you expecting the other justices to speak out on this or be surprised by it?
Right. Honestly, I wasn't surprised in the case of Clarence Thomas because his wife is a known Republican Party donor and activist, and so I wasn't totally surprised by that one. I was a little surprised by the response from the rest of the court in terms of, they're just dismissing it as being something that they'll look into and something that seemed to be a little bit more commonplace than I think the American public is aware of.
How did you respond to his explanation that included a statement that, well, I discussed this with some of the fellows, some of us, and they said it was okay?
Yeah.
What was did you have any idea possibly who could the fellows be?
Well, the statement, it kind of suggested that he had this conversation maybe 30 years ago when he first came on the bench. And so that tells us that he's been accepting gifts like this throughout his entire career as a Supreme Court justice. And, you have to look at who was on the bench at the time. And yes, I believe that to be, something that definitely happens. I mean, when you just Google, gifts received by the Supreme Court, these are things that in most instances, a lot of the justices will report personal gifts that they've received. But There is a gray area because there's you don't have to report gifts that are received from people that you know, people that you consider to be friends. And so I think that's the line that Justice Thomas was trying to manipulate and say, hey, this guy, we're friends.
But
I've known him
but
many years.
even your friends, the big thing with your friends is they should not be having cases come before you in the court, or should they, or could they, and are you obligated to recuse yourself from cases that your friends are presenting to the court? The friend that took you on $1 million camping trip last week and let you keep the $200 million sleeping bag. What?
Yeah,
What?
that would be the real concern, I think, with Justice Alito, because it wasn't like the Republican machine giving him gifts. It was an individual person, and that person is a lawyer who appeared in front of Justice Alito in numerous cases. And so I think that creates that's the type of conflict that if this were the superior court level, the state level, the trial court level, the judges would obviously recuse themselves.
And if they didn't, any attorney that's appearing before them could bring that up as a reason to change judges. Is that correct?
It would be an immediate motion to disqualify. I mean, I have judges that I've been practicing so long, and a lot of the attorneys that I've worked with in the past are now judges. And even though I haven't like socialized with them or even seen some of them in 10 or 15 years, when we see each other, when I walk in the courtroom and see this judge on the bench that I used to work with, it's a recusal just because we know each other. We haven't even talked to each other in 10 or 15 years. So for the suggestion that you can take personal gifts from people and then allow them to appear in front of you and argue cases, that's very problematic. But again, the Supreme Court does not have rules of conduct. But why the standard rules of professional responsibility that all lawyers have and all lawyers apply, all lawyers and judges, why aren't those applying to the Supreme Court? Why do they have their own separate rules of conduct? I mean, these are just standard rules of conduct by all lawyers. So
what's wrong with, I may be a little over conservative. What's wrong with the judge having his buddy come before him and, and decide the case? That's my buddy. I trust this guy. He's been a good guy all these years. He loans me his car. He comes and cuts my grass. Who could be nicer? I don't even have to buy groceries. This guy is perfect. Is there a danger, Allison, for justices to secretly receive these expensive gifts and services? And is there much relief if, for instance, if Clarence Thomas or Alito had said, "Hey, I'm getting these gifts. I'm letting you know that this guy, he pays my house rent. He bought my grandmother's house. He paid for my grandson's tuition. He's a great guy, and I'm not going to recuse myself. I am going to work on his case. I think he should be treated fairly, and I'm here to be sure that happens." Because that's transparent. Would that be acceptable?
I don't think so. It wouldn't be acceptable in any other court. I mean, there is.
But it could be acceptable in the Supreme Court if transparency was available. If they told the truth, and the truth was as bold as I am silly about, and they could say, well, that's it. There is no rule against it. I'm going to have this case before me. And if that's the case, the thing I'm kind of concerned about is we switch gears and look at another case where a non-Supreme Court justice is involved in making decisions about the Trump case with the classified documents, with the security of the country. That judge made a judgment on President Trump's case in the past that showed total favoritism. And from what I understand, the appeals court slapped her around and, did everything in front of God and everybody to let her know that she was out of place. But she is now going to be the one to decide, and I understand that once the case gets started, if she goes a couple of days in, there's no appeal to the decisions that she makes.
Yeah. I mean, it's very hard to be totally impartial with people that you have relationships with. And I mean, that's the whole reason why the recusal process are the way they are, because
Allison,
I mean,
we're running out of time. I'm going to ask you a question here. Do you have legal faith in the Supreme Court as it's currently operating? Do you have legal faith in the Supreme Court as it's operating?
yes, I do.
Okay.
I have legal faith in them, because it's not the decision of just one judge or two judges. We do have a lot of smart people on there.
I'm just disturbed that I know that we have two judges now who have secretly maintained information about things that you and I figured would be influential in our decision making. And they're doing it in the presence of 7 other justices who have, to us, transparent people who want transparency. We don't have any idea how they feel about it. And possibly they've been taking gifts. So is there anything there that concerns you? And if so, what would you do about it?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely concerns me. And I think there has to be some effort to really solidify the ethical rules and standards as they apply to the Supreme Court. Not only in writing, but there has to be like a robust process for reviewing it. Who reviews it? I don't know. Maybe it has to be a panel of attorneys. Maybe it has to be the Senate or the Congress. I'm not sure. But because they are the highest level in the legal system, where are the checks and balances for them?
Right.
I think that's what has to be explored.
Well, I'll confess that I would not be a good objective person for assigning or deciding are they in good shape and do they need changes, because from my little ignorant position, they scare the bazooki out of me, and that's because I would like for my children to be able to vote, my grandchildren to be able to vote and be secure about it. I'd like for them to be able to be free enough to decide whether they're going to wear pants or skirts. And I'd like for them to be free enough to have love and respect for other people's decisions. Allison, thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us today. We are out of here. We are going to be here next week under 2 circumstances. 1, if the good Lord's willing, and 2, if the creek don't rise. God bless you. Thank you, Allison, for your time. We look forward to talking to you again.